Today we're looking at the second panel of the 3-panel display in the Listings tab. And the first thing we want to do is drag over a TreeView. If I can find it. There it is, TreeView. And then click on the little arrow in the corner, which is the Common Task pop-up, and click on Dock and Parent Container so that it'll entirely fill the second panel. And then we want to go over and give it a meaningful name in the Properties pane. Of TRV List By. And the first thing we want to do is go into the form load event. Maybe the simplest way is to double click on the form and go there. And we want to add a few lines of code. And basically this has a tree node variable called parent node, and we add initially a node to it of list all DVDs, and then we do the parent node nodes add and add a dummy node of asterisk. And to get rid of the error, we need to go up here and add a local variable of tree node. Parent node. And then with the tree view selected, we want to go over to the events. And this is important. We don't want to just double click on here, because if we double click on there, we'll get this default event after select. And the event we really want to deal with is before expand. So let's double click on the before expand and create a event handler for the before expand event for the tree node. It always takes the last comment and moves it down. I hate that. And we're not actually going to show the full functionality of this event handler, but we'll show a big part of it. And basically we're going to have two locally defined tree nodes, node select and node child, and a string called str name and an int called NID, basically for the two things in the genre table, the two fields. And then we create a local MySqlDataReader MDR, and we assign the node selected initially to the tree node list by dot nodes square bracket 0 square bracket, which is the first node. It's actually the node that says list all DVDs. And then we do a node selected dot nodes clear. And strangely to me, this doesn't just wipe out the whole tree. It wipes out everything below the root node, which in this case is just going to be that dummy node of an asterisk at least the first time. In fact, we'll be doing a lot of tree expands when this is finally done, and we'll be wiping out a lot of other nodes. And then we have a try catch finally, and within the try we assign a SQL variable of select asterisk from genre order by name. Then we create a MySQL command with that SQL and the shared connection. And then we do a MySQL command .execute reader, which returns a result table into our MySqlDataReader variable. And a result table is like any other XY table in the relational database. It basically consists of rows and columns, and the rows are represented here by numbers, row 1, row 2, row 3, and the columns or fields are represented by letters A, B, C, D, so that when you get the data reader, it reads in all the rows that are represented by that SQL, however many there may be. There could be hundreds or thousands. And then it also has all the fields that are represented in that SQL. In this case, all the fields in the genre table, which would only be A and B, the name and the genre ID. And then we go through in a while loop, and with the MySqlDataReader object, we do a read, which reads in one row at a time, each of those numbered rows. And we use MDR square bracket quotation mark name quotation mark square bracket to access a specific field within that row that we've just read in. So name is like actually the B in the case of that table we were showing. And MDR currently has a pointer looking at the number 1 row because it's the first time it's doing a read. And we convert that to string because initially it's just an object, and assign it to our str variable. And then we do the same thing with MDR square bracket quotation mark genre ID, which is the A field in that table. And we convert that to an int and assign it to NID. N is Hungarian notation for int. And then once we have both those fields, we do node selected.nodes.add of the name, and we assign the node that we create with this command to another tree node variable called node child, and we take that node child.tag, which is another attribute or variable within the node tree node, and we assign that to the ID. So basically we're creating a way that we can click on the name, and by looking at the tag when we click on the name, we can get the genre ID for that name. In a way, it's sort of a mechanical way of doing a relation with the tree node rather than with the relational database. And of course, if all this works, it's going to fill in the tree with nodes from the genre table, names of genres. But if it fails, we're going to do a catch and get a MySQL exception of EX and pop up a message box that says the data read to populate failed, and show the extremely long EX message. And whether or not the try or the catch happens, we're going to do the finally, which does an MDR close to close the MySqlDataReader object. So if we compile and run this and go over to the listings tab, basically if we would have expanded this before, all we would have seen is the asterisk. But now that if we put in that before expand command, if we click on the plus, we see all the genres that I've now put in. I put in about over 300 records, and I've ended up defining a lot of obscure genres in order to cover what I think the DVDs are defined as. So to review, basically we talked about the TreeView and the MySqlDataReader, and we used two methods of the TreeView: the nodes.clear to clear out all the nodes except the top one for some reason, which works perfect. It's exactly what we want. I think it's because if you clear out the top one, you'll just destroy the tree, and apparently that's disallowed. And then we looked at the nodes.add, which returns a pointer or reference to the node, which was that child node, and we take advantage of that in order to access the tag for that specific node. And then in the TreeView properties, we looked at the text property, which assigns a string that we actually see displayed, and the tag property, which is sort of a behind the scenes property, which we can then associate the genre ID with that text, which we can use later on to great advantage. And then we have the MySQL reader created by MySQL command object .execute reader, and the MySQL data reader methods we looked at were read, which goes through each row one row at a time, and close, which closes out the data reader, which is very important. You can get an error if you don't close a data reader. And the MySQL data reader properties we looked at is how to deambiguate each of the fields within the current record. So we have the data reader object name, a square bracket, quotation mark, and the field name, an ending quotation mark, and a square bracket. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.